The mountains are magnificent and they're incredibly beautiful and inviting and rich and full of life and terrifying and dark and brutal and everything. They give and they take, right? At least in Switzerland, they did historically a lot of different things would happen. But the mountains are like an orientation. When you have those shapes and you live in those shapes, it's really profound.
Welcome to Modo di Bere, the podcast about local drinks and local sayings. I'm your host, Rose Thomas Bannister. Today's musical guest is Serena Jost. I really love to talk with musicians and composers who do interesting things with the language or with interesting languages. So Serena Jost is a singer, cellist, and composer. Stereo Ember magazine called her the Elizabeth Barrett Browning of avant classical folk. Serena is a longtime New Yorker who grew up between the Midwest and Switzerland. She has walked along the Great Lakes, over mountain passes, and loves to take to the streets of New York City. Serena has performed in Europe and the UK and throughout the US and Canada. She has been on stage at seminal New York City venues such as Joe's Pub, Rockwood Music Hall, The Owl, Barbès, the Swiss Consulate, the Living Room, Pete's Candy Store, Tonic, and the Kitchen. Together with composer-cellist Matthew Robinson, she led a 50 cello performance on Governor's Island, and she was an original member of the band Rasputina. Serena, welcome. I've popped out to my Brooklyn fire escape to tell you about this month's sponsor, Culture Without Borders Language Collective, who believe that the best way to learn language is through friendship. I'm going to be doing a collaborative event with Culture Without Borders, and I'm going to tell you a little more about it later in the episode. Before we start the interview, I want to let you know that Modo di Bere exists thanks to listeners like you. Your support makes it possible for us to interview winemakers, artisans, and everyday people who keep local culture alive. Please take a moment now to visit patreon.com/mododibere. This fascinating interview will be here when you get back. Serena, I've always wanted to talk more with you about growing up in this multilingual place, which is Switzerland. But I went ahead and put our interview on the calendar when you mentioned that you have some music in a made-up language.
Yeah. So, just quickly, my family is from Switzerland, and I grew up between Switzerland and Michigan, and all of my relatives were in Switzerland. And in our Midwestern college town household, we spoke Swiss German dialect and had a lot of the cultural things, from Swiss culture. I do have a song with a made-up language because to me, I guess that there's like something like pre-language, which is the sounds that mean things that are closest to the story you're telling. And in some ways, by the time you have words for something, you're already falling short of what you were trying to say. So I do have a made-up language because I feel like it's maybe the purest form of expression.
That is so interesting. Let's play a little bit of that song now.
She killers is madra she and ask me to kiss my act. And while I lead me, at the silver was wild with the tune and cut me tell me, hustle, as we schwebt band wet was wet, and as me go together, as we were with the dumb. I floated in the water, the clouds within can't be spread. It's a match made. Fuck them, shit them to get out wild. I love brown and you go and just there. Chicken. That's one thing, huh? Chicken back, you got a wild water. God. Oh,
Wow. So what is the story there?
Well, it's more a story about an encounter, and it starts with an exploration that there's a misunderstanding, and the person, or me, the person I'm channeling, asserts themselves and sort of finds their power. And so it's like, it's both kind of luring you in, and it's like inviting you in. And at the same time, it's like if you busted out of a shirt or something like that.
And there's also a second part to the song. That's kind of interesting. We're going to play the second part now, but do you want to talk to me about how the song's in two parts?
Yeah, the song's in two parts. So the first part is the language, and then it goes into a very dynamic part called it's still a jump, the song Jump, and it's about total defiance, like and daring someone to try to stop me. And you'll hear in the lyrics what that is. So I'm saying you can try, but I'm going to have fun doing whatever I want to do.
Oh, I love that.
If I didn't have the need to know this, would I be telling you what I miss? Standing taller than all your walls, you should not catch me if I fall. Or jump, 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 up jump, 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 up jump, 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 up jump, 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 jump. More than ever I am grateful now. You did show me what and how. It's surprising, it is so sweet to find myself on my feet. I'll jump, 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 I'll jump, 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 I'll jump, 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 I'll jump, 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 jump. Down is not so far away.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Can you talk about your records and...
Yeah, okay, so I have 3 albums, and I'm making another one right now, and that is from Closer Than Far, which I made with the producer Brad Albetta, who's really amazing, and the band obviously figured largely in that piece. And then after that, I made an album with Anton Fier, the extraordinary producer Anton Fier, called A Bird Will Sing, and that was also with my band. So the band shifted a little bit, but mostly I've had the same people all along. Julian Maley is the person you hear on guitar, and Rob Jost plays bass, and Robert DiPietro plays drums. I made an album. It was great working with Anton, but it was like a architectural experience, where it was like this person with a superstructure sense came in and produced something, and it was amazing to work with him, but then the pendulum swang. And I wanted to do something totally personal, live. So I did a solo cello and voice recording in St. Peter's Church, which was built in 1848. It's in Chelsea. And I did it was me and 8 microphones. And wow. Adam Gold recorded that. And so it was a series of songs and also sort of improvisations that happened in the space. And that was, just a totally different, very raw, whatever I got, we kept type of thing. And now we're making a new album back to the band, but a little bit more of that live feeling, like I want to see what happens and let it stand.
That sounds amazing. And that recording, all of those recording experiences sound incredible in different ways. So you also sent me another song that you described as wordless, which is It's a Delight.
Yeah.
I believe that's from the church album.
Yeah, it's called Up to the Sky.
Up to the Sky. So I was curious how you differentiate wordless from the made-up language, because you use 2 different ways to describe that.
Yeah, so the made-up language is something that is, I'm telling something, like I have something specific that I'm saying. And by way of background, I grew up without a television and, with a Swiss household in the Midwest. But we did have a shortwave radio, which I would take to the roof, and I would fashion an antenna out and listen to the radio on the roof. And I loved listening to languages that I didn't understand, like for hours. So I feel like I have an affinity to sound, And it's like almost if you listen long enough to something you don't understand, you'll start to understand it. And the wordless song, just to answer your question about the Up to the Sky, like it's a delight. That's, I feel like it's like something that's I'm not, I feel like I'm just a vessel, and that the sounds are coming through me. I start something and I don't know what it is. I have no idea. And it's sort of like I'm just there to receive it. So there's a difference.
It's a little more ecstatic, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So let's play It's a Delight. Really love the way that you captured the sound in that building, the acoustics of a certain space.
Yeah.
It's a type of local culture that I think we don't really consider.
And it was like a very incredible thing to do in that space because it's been around for such a long time. And I felt like there were these sort of balconies, and I felt like the presence of people over time in that space, So that was really, I felt just like it was an honor to record there.
That's a beautiful story, and it's a really beautiful song. I want to hear more about what it was like for you being connected to more than one homeland. And I'm thinking about, there's another song that I want to play next, which is Blue Flowers. And I noticed there's a line in there that says, pick a country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that has anything to do with your upbringing, but I just want to hear a little more about your experience of being in two places and growing up, and how language factored into that, and anything you want to tell us about that song.
It's really interesting to grow up and with an awareness of that you belong to two places. Maybe some people have even more places, but in some ways you have like access to your consciousness about, you don't take for granted where you live. And in some ways you have this special gift, and you have the gift of learning a language just because you're around it. That's an amazing thing. And in Switzerland, people speak multiple languages. Most people speak multiple languages.
So what are some of the main languages that you see in Switzerland?
Well, you have 4, basically. So you have Swiss German, which is the dialect that I speak. And then there's French and Italian. And then there's a language called Romanisch, which is 11%, I believe, of the country speaks it. It's an old Latin dialect, and it's the most incredible sounding language. So, and a lot of people, because it's a small country, it's close, everything's close, so you cross into other languages with frequency. So many people have a pretty good handle on 2 to 3 plus English language often. So, and I, because I had my schooling in the United States, I didn't have that advantage, but I have some French, and I have German, and then my Swiss German, and then I have High German also, which is, the Schriftdeutsch, which is like what they would speak in Germany.
Could you tell me a little more about the difference between Swiss German dialect?
Yeah. I mean, Germany has dialects too, but the Schriftdeutsch is sort of the written, proper German. And it's, it's a language that it's like Swiss German has its own grammar, actually. So it's very different than the High German. For me, when I speak High German, I sort of feel like I'm trying to speak British English. Like it's kind of like it's stuck in my mouth somewhere, But Swiss German is a language of my heart. So there are things that I can say in Swiss German that I cannot say in English. There's not a translation, really.
Can you give me an example?
We might say, mir ist wohl, oder mir geht sehr gut, oder es hat mir sehr gefallen. Like, these are things like, I like this, it pleased me, aber ist mir lieb. It's just like, it's different. Like if I said today is Wednesday, in High German, heute ist Mittwoch. And in dialect we say, heute ist Mittwoch. So it's different, right? And I think the language of caring also from my parents was Swiss German. And there's obviously so much music, Swiss German dialect. There are lots of famous artists. But I guess for me, like, it's both an advantage of having these two places, and then in some ways you never belong. You don't fit in. Like when I would go to here, I would feel really like incredibly European, like rustic, doing all these things, like not doing American cultural things. And then when I would go to Switzerland, my relatives would say you've we should say amerikanisch worden, which means you've become so American. And I would be like, well, I'm just both. And then the solve was to move to New York City, where whoever you are is embraced. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Everyone is from somewhere, right? And there's such just an incredible group of people here. So whatever your configuration here is like, okay, great. I think I appreciate the being raised by European Swiss parents and kind of having access to that culture. It's a different way, a little bit, of being. And then on the American side, I like, being able to like speak my mind and be direct and brash, a little forward. That's like more American.
Yeah. I love how you describe the personalities of the languages.
Yes,
yeah.
it's in there. Actually, in my family, we had a German friend, and when different family friends, and one guy would come over, and when he and my mother would speak German, they would complain, and when they spoke English, they would have like this more optimism.
I like that.
It's just like in the culture, it's kulturell bedingt, we say. It's in the culture.
Popped out to my Brooklyn Fire Escape to let you know about a collaborative event between Culture Without Borders Language Collective and Modo di Bere. The event is on November 16th, 2025, and it's a bilingual wine tasting where English and Spanish learners can practice their languages and learn about wine while meeting some nice new people. Please go to cwbcollective.com and sign up for their email list to find out about this and other events for language learners everywhere. So I really like to talk to people about idioms and sayings. Are there any like Swiss German proverbs or like something your mom used to say that kind of come to mind?
I guess my mother is like a very positive person. You might say things like, like positive, like little witticisms. It's schon prima. That's perfect. It's schon prima. I mean, Germans say it's geil, but we say schon prima. Or es hat mir sehr gefallen. Like I loved it. Everyone always talks about the Hochgeschli when they're making. Some people mock Swiss German because we have a lot of and a lot of sounds. So the Germans always talk about this expression with the Hochgeschli, which is like, it's not really a summary of the language. There's nice things like, for example, if you say good night, you say schlaf schön. And schlaf schön, it's sleep well. And it's just a nice, sometimes the sounds are warm.
They're kind of sonorous compared to the German that I've heard.
Absolutely, yes. And it's more sing-songy. And there are within Switzerland lots of little dialects. Like even though I grew up, with Swiss parents in Michigan, people can tell which region my parents are from, which region my family's from. So
which region is that?
From Canton Graubünden, which is like in the southeastern part. It's beautiful there. My mother's from Davos and my father's from Klosters. Those are kind of well-known ski villages. And then, of course, the World Economic Forum is in Davos now. So I grew up, in the mountains and just picking flowers and drinking. Like you can go above Klosters, you can go to this place called Schlappin, and you drink from the stream. It's pretty great. Now, of course, Switzerland's also a modern place. So there's, there's cities, there's all kinds of people, But the version I got was a little bit more of the older generation. My partner, the first time he was in Switzerland with me, we were up on this mountainside, and my grandmother was there, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's going to be okay? She has an axe. And I was like, yes, she's going to, use her axe. Like, so that was for a New York Jew, like a surprising image. And so that was good.
There's something I notice about if you're having an immigrant experience where you are then your version of the language that you learn is from a different generation because you're not spending as much time with contemporaries your own age. So do you find now if you talk with someone your age from Swiss German, are you kind of old-fashioned?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so great that you're saying that because it's true. You're almost like frozen in time a little bit. And so when I go to Switzerland now and I'm hanging out with younger cousins or whatever, I feel like, oh, that's how you say that. Like that's how you say it and sound cool. Like, or the fast, like those witty, it's just also maybe cultural has kind of gotten a little more less formal across the board. So, like people throw things out there. So I definitely, every time I'm in Switzerland, I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm needing to update and I'm trying to grab whatever I can.
You still have like very strong grasp of your language. It didn't get rusty for you?
Not so much. I speak Swiss German with my mother exclusively. Like we always speak Swiss German. And I had an experience, my brothers and I, we all spoke at home, but I guess I had an experience where I had an accident when I was 15 and I was in Europe and I ended up in the hospital in Switzerland and I had to deal. So I learned to really use my language in a way that I hadn't before.
Because it was your only option.
Yeah, it was my only option and, silver lining, as they say. So then, and also I have Swiss friends in New York. And then I did some work with the consulate. So just, am I as totally on point in Swiss German as I can be in English? Probably not. But am I able to express emotion and, a feeling and connectedness? Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I would love it if people would replace what you just said for their definition of fluency.
Yeah.
Especially Americans, I feel like there's two things that we do. We really assume that if you didn't learn something when you were really young, that it's too late for you to learn language. And then we also just do this constant, oh, well, I'm not fluent. And it occurs to me when I'm speaking to people who have a little bit of a low confidence American language learning thing that I notice a lot, I started to wonder, what is that definition of fluent?
Yeah.
At which point you will have arrived. And are you actually putting it up there with a native speaker?
Yeah.
And will you just continue to apologize until you sound like a native speaker? Because then you're going to apologize forever because you can't redo your life and become a native speaker.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And also like the way anybody learns anything is by starting with something and then like that's the first part and then you become dissatisfied with it and you go to the next thing or you try things and stumbling is part of every child's language learning, so why not for an adult?
Yes.
And like I think what you're saying is also great, like what is the attainment of language? Because you know how even if you don't speak a language, like I feel like a fake languages, like if I'm traveling, like if I know what I'm trying to communicate, I find a way to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Also, language is empathy, so if you speak with someone or you try to speak their language, that's a really special thing that you're doing. It's empathetic and it's kind of like peacemaking or something,
Yeah. I got really shy about my Spanish when I started learning Italian because they got kind of mixed up in my head. And sometimes I'd say D instead of day and as if that matters.
Right.
I had an experience where I had someone translate my questions for me for a Spanish podcast interview.
Yeah.
It was actually my stepson. He did a terrific job. But there was this distance of having someone translate my questions. And it would have been so much better if I had just gone ahead with my Spanish, which is actually fine.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm actually going to be launching a Spanish podcast soon. I learned Spanish when I was younger. So the Italian was really fresh and hot.
Yeah.
But the Spanish was a little more embodied. I have different connection to them, but the fascinating thing that happened was now I speak Spanish in an Italian accent and people think I'm Italian, which is, but that's part of my story.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I just realized that when I'm speaking with someone, a Spanish speaker, an Italian speaker, and I throw a word in there, I'll notice sometimes and apologize. Yeah. And they'll be like, I understood you.
Right. Exactly.
That's...
Exactly. That's so lovely, right?
Yeah.
And also, that it's like it's always in motion, right? And there's no like perfect moment, there's just communicating.
At the end of our lives, we get aphasia and different things.
Exactly.
And going back to babies and your experience of being in the hospital and having to use your language because no one around was speaking English, that's how it is for babies too. Yeah. They need to communicate in order to survive.
Yeah.
And say, I need something.
Yeah.
I'm in pain, I'm hungry, I'm whatever, basic needs. So the motivation is incredible. And so when we're sitting here comparing ourselves to babies, it's like, well, do you really want to be in the kind of survival situation that's going to make you focus that much on your new language? Or would you rather just kind of struggle along slowly and to get better over time?
And there's energy too, like when you're talking to someone and you don't have a common language, or one of you isn't as agile in it. There's, eye contact and body language, really universal things that kind of carry you through, right?
It's marvelous. And there's so much more about it than just getting the words perfect. And that's why I really do think that it goes together to talk about language and to talk about wine, at least from, my perspective as an American, noticing that in both fields, it can feel kind of mysterious, or the attainment levels seems really high, or it seems like this mysteriously difficult skill that is so impressive that people can do, whereas you could be in another paradigm and it's just like, this is a part of life. Or if you're in Switzerland and you're speaking 4 or 5 languages, just to go to another town, or to talk to your brother-in-law, or whatever. Like it can be also very everyday.
Well, I do feel like we tend to think of things as these sort of, this is the ultimate version of what I'm going to do. And the ultimate thing, when I have time, I'm going to do this thing, or the ultimate dream. Those little things are just little bricks, that you just like start with one, and then you have the next one, and then maybe you're getting somewhere,
Yeah.
Right? It's just an awakening, and then like you're saying, it's so generous to communicate with people, whether wine or language. It's like there's generosity.
So let's listen to some more music. I wanted to play this song Blue Flowers, and that line popped out to me of choosing a country. So was there anything else you'd like to tell us about that song?
Yeah, that song is like, in some ways, a very serious song. And I guess you could start with the title. The blue flowers are, you don't often see blue flowers. And it's sort of about, if you have an awareness of yourself and you lose your sense of identity, and what the structure and everything that held you is no longer true, what happens next? What happens when you have a total shift from how you know yourself? Most people, all of us, feel like that those can be kind of devastating moments, but in the chorus it goes to the place of freedom and the country. And you can hear, talking, it's a bit defiant. And it's also like saying, I'm ready for this, whatever come tidal wave. Here I am. I'm going to, just take this. There is seriousness and joy in that song.
This will take you under. This might make it right. Hang a left for comfort and turn again and glide into clouds. The first time is color, the second black and white. When it is raining, the color and black and white collide and flow. Here are all the blue flowers. Take your pick of a country. You can borrow my body. I'll wait here in each of them.
Yeah, that is a beautiful song. What album is that one from?
That's from A Bird Will Sing, Swish. And Anton had a big part in shaping and bringing those songs out in a way that I hadn't imagined. That was really special. And that's Rob Jost there on the bass, who is not related to me, but has the same last
Oh,
name.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's same spelling, so we sometimes do a duo thing called Yost and Jost.
Oh, and he says Jost. Oh, that's so funny. Where is that from, that it's Jost instead of
He's
Yost?
from, I think he's German Jewish background. I don't know. It's just kind of a random thing. Everyone thinks that either we're married or siblings, and we kind of play into that, but we're not.
Did you know that I also have a travel show? Modo di Bere TV is a series of regional documentaries I produce with the filmmaker Emilia Agamirzai. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Modo di Bere to follow my adventures as I taste wine with farmers who rescue forgotten grapes, play dominoes with the last speakers of a rare dialect, and make friends with fishermen who still go out in wooden boats. All that and more is coming to youtube.com/@MODODIBERE. Go subscribe now. As listeners of this show might know, I'm a singer-songwriter myself, which is definitely part of why I know so many cool musicians such as yourself. I feel like you and I have both been described as literary songwriters, maybe because something about our lyric style or the fact that we also draw from literature in our work, or maybe both. And I love this comparison from the press to Elizabeth Barrett Brown. Can you remind our listeners who she was?
Elizabeth Barrett Browning was a poet, and she, she was, I think she was sort of forward for her time. She was probably in that Norton anthology that you read, like when you were in school. And it was great that reviewer made a comparison, because, I appreciate that. Intentionally, I write sort of in a poetic way. I mean, I sometimes write with a straight narrative, but sometimes straight narrative is not that interesting to me. So I like the configuration of words. I think that's what he was relating to, using words as shapes or creating patterns or rhythms within words. So I think he I really appreciated his writing.
So I'm pretty sure that she was born in the early 1800s, so I'm pretty sure this is in the public domain. So just to give you a little reference, the sonnet, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
Yes.
I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace." So that is, you might have heard that also referenced, even if you haven't heard the poem. So I want to play two different songs that I think can give that example of why you're getting called a literary songwriter. And I think one would be maybe just the more poetic style, and then the other one more of a literary reference. So I was thinking of the song Great Conclusions. There's just this kind of list of objects that I found to be really poetic. And this is from A Bird Will Sing, as was the last song. So
Soft eyes for looking, all things start small. In tiny places, big things grow tall. Light in a bedroom, sharp sound at night. The length of an hour, a clock that is right.
delicious.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to tell you who's playing too. So that's Rob Jost on the bass and Julian Maley on that slicing guitar. And Robert DiPietro is playing drums. And then Thomas Bartlett, who goes by Doveman, is on the keys there.
So we heard those last two songs that we heard were both from the album A Bird Will Sing, which had that kind of beautiful, lush production. We got a chance to really hear the range because we also heard the song in the church recorded album, which is Up to the Sky. And then the couple of songs that we started with were from Closer Than Far.
Exactly.
You also shared with me a couple of works in progress, which I feel really lucky to
it's
hear
nice.
and to share with our listeners. And they're beautiful. So speaking of literary references, there was a song called Euphoria, and you said that it was a Kurt Vonnegut reference?
Yeah, so I'm involved in this thing called the Bushwick Book Club, which is wonderful. It's run by Susan Huang, who's just delightful. And she invites artists to come. We all read the same book, and then everyone comes up with a song. So there's all these totally varied, different, amazing songs. And Kurt Vonnegut was one of the authors. In the Monkey House, I read a short story there called The Euphoria Question, and it's about this device that transmits a signal from outer space to humans below, which makes them feel completely blissful. And the story goes through sort of what happens to people, like, and how they come together, and then also how they vie for, they want to own it, just like humans want to possess good things and monetize them. So anyway, so my song, I called it Euphoria, and it's based on that also, that just based on that, piece of writing.
I think that illusion of possession is probably our biggest problem.
Yeah, well, it's the mirage. Once you have something and you feel like you possess it, whether it's like superiority to another person or whatever you think that you've got in the bag, come on. Like, we know actually it's a moving thing, and it's always, so I feel like we want to secure ourselves by possessing, right? Maybe another person or things, objects. We've constructed that, and it's like this, self-importance. And so it's really interesting that we are kind of, like you say, always relearning and maybe not always getting at that lesson. Quite humbling, right? To think about it that way. And even the feeling of bliss, like in ourselves, when we find a good feeling, it's not going to be that way like endlessly. So it's going to change. Sometimes it's going to be really a good thing, and then sometimes you're going to go through a passage that's maybe dark, and that's your next step. So you're always going through, it's everything changes, sort of.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to this song.
Give us a book, read from the page. Truth is found and born on the stage. Come as you are, bow out of your path. The waves will carry you far. Tune in and listen, receive the sound. Give in to the feeling, real and profound. Transmission so strong and so pure. The signal brings peace of mind. Antenna, antenna, antenna. Feel the force.
I'm thinking of the antenna. Is that in the Kurt Vonnegut story? Because it also reminds me of you being on the roof with your radio.
Oh, that's
as
so
a kid.
funny. I never made that connection.
Yeah. I mean,
that's amazing. Yeah. I don't remember if it was in the story. I think maybe I came up with that. And it's interesting listening to this because this is an unmixed thing.
It still sounds lovely.
Oh, thank you. We've been doing it as a band. So this was just duo. We've been doing it as a band. I was like, maybe we want to do a band version. My thought for the new record is to have like duos, trios, and quartets. So not just like a monolithic band.
I could hear some drums in there.
Yeah,
That would be kind of fun.
Right? Yeah. So we're kind of just pulling it together in a different way, a little bit more organic. But
I'm excited about the new record.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. You know what it's like. It's really like an amazing thing to do. To be able to do, right?
Yes.
And it's like you have these songs which are like, I don't know, they make themselves important to you, and so you're compelled to see them through, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think of just everything being in service of the song. It becomes almost its own being that requires
Yeah.
you to place it into history in whatever way you
Do
can.
you have something new coming out?
Yeah,
Too?
I have a record, my third record, but my first record to come out on vinyl. I recorded it over 10 years ago. So it's been a long gap for me, and it's really a big,
It's so exciting.
it's really a big thing to be able to
Oh yeah,
to put
and
it out.
vinyl would
Yeah.
be wonderful. So you already have it printed on vinyl.
You know, I might have to show it to you here.
It's gorgeous. The back is beautiful too.
Yeah. So the art was done by this incredible artist called Liz Downing, who's also a musician from Baltimore.
Wow.
And yeah, it's called the Little Wren, and it's my first vinyl. I'll put in the show notes also where you can get Serena's albums and also my album. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll do a musical episode on the show, and you know, maybe you can interview me. Serena, I want to play one more song and ask you about one more song, which was the one that really, really gave me goosebumps. But before we do that, where can people buy your records? Can you tell us your website and how people can purchase music, see you live?
So my website is serenajost.com, and it's SERENAJOST. Yost is with a J. And then you can find me on Bandcamp under that same name. I have things on YouTube. I can stand a bit of housekeeping on YouTube, so updating things. But in the next months, I'll be doing that. And then, I'm on all the platforms. And then also, actually, I do want to mention, if people want to sign up for a mailing list, I'm on my website. You can sign up. And I am doing this piece recently. I did a piece called Bloom, which is a staged choreography of song, which is songs with movement that I've created and text that I wrote. So it's sort of like a staged evening of song about bloom, which is really about the emergent moment of beauty that is bloom and what comes before and after it. So.
Oh, that sounds agricultural and very much up my alley.
Yes.
Show.
You can come. You can come, and it's like, and it's the band moves, and that's what we're working on right now, is to find a theater for that. So.
Oh, well, please keep me posted. Yeah. Well, I'm on your mailing list, so I'll be hearing about that. And congratulations on everything that you're working on. Is there anything else that you're working on right now besides the new album and that production?
No, I guess I am co-writing with some people, which is newer for me, and I'm really enjoying that experience. Speaking of letting go and not possessing things, or just having an exchange with someone. So that's really good. And I'm always, either writing new songs or those songs are writing me. You know how that is? Like, you work on a song and sometimes you have like a stack of drafts, and then sometimes one of them comes and you have to write it down as fast or record it as fast as you can. So kind of in that space, creation.
I can't wait to hear what's next. It's been really wonderful to, I've always thought your music was beautiful, but it's been wonderful to listen a little more closely and see the different types of arrangements that you've made, and it's really a joy. And
thank you. I appreciate your insight also. I really appreciate your lovely questions.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah. So the other work in progress that you sent me is called St. John's. And your lyrics mention visions and dragons and an island and the word revelation. So, of course, I'm thinking about Revelation, the book of Revelation from the New Testament. And so I'm not personally religious, but I have a lifelong fascination with the visionary part of the human experience, particularly the way it creates culture, like including local culture. But I also, that connected with me because of another poet whose name I can't pronounce despite having studied it in college and having a poetry degree, which is, here, you can help me. Look, it's German.
Yes, Friedrich Holderlin.
Holderlin. So this L not being an L is hard. Just because I liked it, I had a little fragment from his work read at my wedding, actually.
Amazing.
in 2019, and it was from Patmos, which is the same island as I'm just going to read a few lines from this if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Near is and difficult to grasp the God, but where danger threatens, that which saves from it also grows. In gloomy places dwell the eagles, and fearless over the chasm walk the sons of the Alps, on bridges lightly built. Therefore, since round about are heaped the summits of time, and the most loved live near, growing faint on mountains most separate, Give us innocent water. Oh, pinions give us, with minds most faithful, to cross over and to return.
Wow.
So another visionary.
That's incredible.
But I also thought of that too because of the Alps. And we didn't really talk about the mountains.
The mountains are magnificent, and they're incredibly beautiful and inviting and rich and full of life and terrifying and dark and brutal and everything. You know, they give and they take, right? At least in Switzerland, they did historically a lot of different things would happen. But the mountains are like an orientation. You know, when you have those shapes and you live in those shapes, it's really profound. You know, I mean, these days, like as close as I can come to the mountain is the Empire State Building outside of my living room window. And I feel sometimes like, okay, it's a mountain, you know. But the mountains, like, I mean, you know, Thomas Mann, like do you know who that is? He's like an author who wrote about Davos and the mountains. Magic Mountain is a famous, it's terrifying thing. But the mountains are incredible. The stones on the mountains are amazing. The views, what it does to your vision, like, you know, like you have like, you're always looking at things and they're sort of close, or in New York anyways, you're always hitting another right angle. And in the mountains in Switzerland, you look out and you start to see more and more out, and you feel your eyes opening and seeing further. So, you know, there's, you know, that everything, the mountains are like all the jagged and magnificent thing, and then the tiniest beauty, like the mountain flowers that you have. So
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I went to Valtellina, which is a wine region in Italy, but on the border with Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my goodness, that's an Alp. I mean, they are big.
Very. Yeah.
They're very imposing.
Yeah.
And they are terrifying in a way, but it's also just an incredible beauty. And to make a life on those steep places and in those extraordinary valleys.
Yeah.
It's really special.
It is special. And like, it's so nice that you got to go there and see that. I mean, and you also realize why Swiss people are like known for their preparedness, because it's like you had to, you know, have a method to handle that environment, right? So you had to, you know, but the beauty, it's so cool that you went there.
Yes, it was amazing. And there's going to be some more stuff coming to the Modo Bere project about that adventure that my partner in the TV show and I had in the mountains and in that wine region. And
seems like maybe
really
if you need an assistant, like for drinking and for mountaineering.
Let's talk about this St. John's now. I jumped all over with my own references and thoughts about it. Is there anything you want to tell us about the song before you played? I just found it really striking. It just kept giving me this like physical reaction.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it is a tribute to St. John the Divine's Cathedral in Manhattan, which is a magnificent place, architecturally huge. It remains unfinished. And it has the cathedral itself that has an amazing social mission. They work with prisoners. There's in the song, there's a beautiful rose window that is there. And I guess some of what I was thinking about is the cathedral itself, and I guess humility before God, whatever God you want to talk about, whatever that means, godliness perhaps. So, and St. John the Divine, you know, St. John had this vision, and then I thought of connecting it basically to the people of New York City and how it's this welcoming place to, you know, to people, and it's part of our city, and it actually is a welcoming place.
But who
really talk about the cello.
Oh, that's true.
So the cello, I think, has such a voice to it. In one of the other musical episodes that we did, I was talking to the multi-instrumentalist Amy Denio. I asked her if learning a new instrument was like learning another language,
Huh.
and she
Yeah.
said, absolutely, So that's something about the cello that almost, there's certain instruments that kind of feel like a human voice, or that just, you really feel like it's talking. I don't know, maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think totally the cello has that. I think a lot of people, walk down the street, people stop me and like, oh my God, I love the cello so much, and I think it is that voice sounds like something. And I guess, it has a huge range also. So, and it pairs well with the human voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy singing with the cello. It took me a while to learn how to do that because you don't have frets.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot technically that's happening. It's quite different when you're singing with a guitar. Singing with a cello is like a thing. So, and the cello, it's like you can pass lines back and forth between your voice and the cello, in this really easy way. And the cello is really versatile also. You can make it kind of rock out, or you can be really mellifluous, like legato. So it's a kind of the gift that keeps on giving, and it's just the one I have is from 1910. So, which is kind of special. And it was found, I used to vacation with my family and in the north part of Michigan. And the school teacher who rented us this cabin had a cello. He said, I have a cello in the basement. I was already playing. And, he was like, I have this cello. So we went downstairs and there was this instrument wrapped in a green army blanket. And that's the cello that I have. Playing the cello is a really rewarding, it's just a very rewarding instrument,
And you teach as well.
I do, yeah.
And do you teach remotely?
I do teach remotely. I enjoy that. I teach every age. I also teach like songwriting. So I have teenagers. From teenagers, I have an 80-year-old new cello student. So, and it's happening. Like
I love to hear that.
Yeah, she's like you said. It's never just keep on learning.
Never stop learning.
Never stop learning. Yeah,
yeah.
So, and I enjoy teaching a lot. Like my students are great.
Great. So sign up. If you've always wanted to learn the cello, you've always wanted to learn Italian, you can listen to the Italian version of the podcast or the Spanish version that's coming soon, and you can listen to them side by side and see how much you understand. And if you've been wanting to play the cello your whole life, don't put it off. Just hire Serena.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, worldwide. So you can take remote lessons. Yeah. So they can contact you also through your website.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, Serena Jost.
Yes.
Buy her albums.
Thank you.
Stay in touch.
Thank you.
And really thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It was an absolute joy.
Yes, likewise. I loved it. Thank you.
And thanks so much for your work. It's really special.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so
You're
much.
tuning in. You've got the antenna to the whatever divine thing creates songs from the it just feels like it's always coming from the outside.
And thank you. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you. Really amazing.
So, Well, I look forward to your next out recording and thank you for putting these beautiful songs into the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to all of our listeners. Wherever you go and whatever you like to drink, always remember to enjoy your life and to never stop learning. Support us on Patreon. Grab the newsletter at mododebere.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Modo Bere to watch the travel show Modo Bere TV. Music for the show was composed by Ercilia Prosperi for the band Oh. Purchase their music at the link in the notes.